Hi, everyone. That was Renga of a Distant Spring, made in August. 6 months ago, the City of Kingston declared a state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Not long after the city's declaration, 7 local poets collaboratively wrote Renga of a Distant Spring, and Kingston filmmaker Ali Dixon shot and animated the video to accompany the Renga, co-presented in commemoration by the Skeleton Park Arts Festival. Sorry about the technical difficulties with getting that video going. We will share the video either again through our YouTube as a single video or else through our social media accounts. Next up, if you're wondering, I'm David Alexander. I'm the festival director for The Word on the Street. And our next panel is Poets on the Tangibility of Living, presented in partnership with the Kingston Writers Fest, who are also hosting a virtual festival this weekend. You can learn more about that at kingstonwritersfest.ca. Our moderator for this morning is Kirby. Kirby is the author of What Do You Want to Be Called? From Anstruther Press, This Is Where I Get Off from Permanent Sleep Press, She's Having a Doris Day from Knife Fork Book, and forthcoming Poetry is Queer from Palimpsest Press. Welcome, Kirby.
Welcome, David. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Sunday morning in Toronto. The skies are glorious. The breeze is just unbelievable. I have the window open to my balcony. It makes me wish that we were down at the waterfront today. I'm hoping that that a year from now, the world will allow us to do so.
I hope so too.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
This morning, we have an extraordinary opportunity to hear 3 poets that I hold very, very dear. And I want to thank you for joining us, and thanks to the poets for being here as well. All 3 have new collections that have just come out, and it's perfect timing for all 3 of these collections. I've been blessed in being and returning to them now and again, often in these last 6 months of spending some delightful time alone. So I want to thank you, poets, for your new collections and your new work, and I'm looking forward to hearing you. I also want you to know, darlings, they said 3 minutes. I'm a poet, and I know reading for 3 minutes is like, wow, do I read a line? So please read what you would like. Read for the length of time that requires. All of us here have come because you're here, and we want to hear you. So feel no pressure about the time business. We'll get to whatever conversation that we'll have following, okay? So a little more license and rope around that. I'm going to introduce you, all 3 of you, and then we'll go in the order in which you're introduced here. Okay, does that work for everybody? Thank you. Sachiko Murakami is the author of 3 poetry collections, including the Invisibility exhibit, shortlisted for the Governor General's Literary Award. As a literary worker, she's edited poetry, worked for trade organizations, hosted reading series, organized conferences, sat on juries, and judged prizes. Darling, I sit with you well there. And I want to continue. I thought I would do the 3 introductions so that's out of the way, and then we'll just get on with it, yes? A.F. Moritz, Al Moritz. Lovely to have you here. I love that hat. Currently serves as the 6th Poet Laureate of the City of Toronto. His many honors include a Guggenheim Fellowship, an award in literature from the American Academy of Arts and Letters, the Griffin Poetry Prize, the Bess Hogan Prize, and an Ingram Merrill Fellowship. His new collection is, as far as you know, Chico's Render, put out by Arsenal Poe. And for the first time, I have the pleasure of hearing and meeting Randy Lundy. The Blackbird song was my entry point for you, and I love your new book so well. Randy is a member of the Barren Lands Cree First Nation. Born in northern Manitoba, he has lived most of his life in Saskatchewan. He has published 3 previous books, Under the Night Sun, Gift of the Hawk, and Blackbird Song. An award-winning poet, his work has been widely and wildly anthologized. Welcome, poets. Wow, it's Sunday morning, as my mother would say. Sunday morning, let's get up. We're going to start with...
Get on up.
Okay.
Get on up.
How's my sound? You can hear me okay?
Your sound is excellent.
Okay, great.
Thank
you so much, Kirby, for hosting, and hello to everybody, my panelists and everybody at home. I'm going to read to you a few poems from my new collection, Render, which will be launching October 13th with Kirby at Night Fort Book, along with Jessica Moore, who has a new collection called The Whole Singing Ocean. Render is a book of poetry about me and my experiences, mostly with trauma, addiction, and recovery. I'm going to read to you just a few poems. I think 4 poems. Is that okay, Kirby?
Let's go.
Okay, you pull out the big digital cane when it's time for me to stop reading. Okay. So I'm going to read the first poem I'm going to read is called An Internment, and it's from the first section of the book that has to do with kind of origin stories. So it's called An Internment. An emptiness placed here by the state. Soft teeth crumble into box dust, carted to Ontario, of all places. I'm going to turn this car around, I swear. Filial hunger, filial debt, filial panic disorder. In the rented house, we searched for secrets as though an object could contain truth. Instead, he arrives disguised in dreams, in some other condo, some other wife. I'm leaving. I'm sick of your shit. I'm sick of your shit credit score. Cemeteries with their enduring monuments, their old money teeth. Or 2 child-sized suitcases packed full of hunger, shoved in the closet farther back than therapy can reach. There where the question hits lockbox. Then there's this old pick. Floss is a floss, excessive floss, enough to hang yourself with. Scrape until something bleeds. Scrape until something bleeds cash. Scratch cards, a whispering accordion, unsung lotto jingle. You think you have a home until the landlord rings. The fallow field behind the junk cars beyond the house burning. Even that insurance policy covers someone else. Or an infant feels a draft and settles back into hunger, coiling herself into the genetic sequence. Until a man shudders out his loss into a mother. She unravels to make room for him. She unravels to make room for his anger. The more empty spaces inside her, the more soft places for his hurt to land. She opens again in a gesture of more. You're nothing. You're on your own. I can't do this with you, without you. Get out of here. Come here. I need to tell you the thing he forgot to tell me about. A gap like this old broken tooth, like the gnaw of ancestral hunger or some explained dry plate you spend your dreams trying to ignore. The same emptiness, the same state as before. This one is from the next section in the book, which is mostly about the darkness. And this is a poem that is about kind of like an overview of the worst year of my life. 4th, but trying to make something pretty out of darkness. Froth of summer, the gorgeous unhinging. Men rupture sweet hangover dusk. Invention slip knots you, mother of midnights. Stars bite into your lip and you wish knives. Cuts of indecision, beaded promise. Hustle past present, a chintzy excuse, or hurtle toward bland reality's dopamine curl. Then your leavings gather in eddies around you, those continual last chances. You brown into bits, reorganized by the dream. Tawny air escapes the immaterial. Molecules march from you. You lapse from child to pitiful fantasy in a matter of minutes. Somewhere in a snowstorm, flakes melt the subjunctive mood. The begin again begins again, carries you with it. Penultimate poem is called Field Research. This is about an experience I had with my mother, who passed away this January, unfortunately, from a fentanyl overdose. Field Research. I talk about my dreams like there is some factual evidence that will survive the trauma of waking and realizing the truth of my life. It's plotting linearity, the plumb line that follows a bullet's path to the next day and the day after that. I'm told I should stay present. I'm told there is safety in the out-breath, that there is a space between thought and thinker I would only see if I held still long enough to measure the distance. Between here and Vancouver, most of a continent. Between a mother and daughter, a sinew stretching city blocks. Pluck it, and it twangs at the same frequency as the knotted trapezius, the first note of a dirge you've been humming since early childhood. Check your breathing. Prepare a plausible story for why you're here, a lie you will tell to tomorrow. When the doctors arrive, they will wave the usual instruments over our lives, listening for signals of the past. When does chronic bronchitis become a child you can name, a treatable condition? My out-breath, her in-breath, a chain that follows generations backwards to the first woman leaning over, heaving out sorrow into a man's empty bed. I lie down with my mother on a single mattress. Lions reach into me, following the lines I laid out for them on her dresser. We sleep for days, a litany of Tuesday mornings marching past window, facing courtyard, a place where exhaled sleep gathers. I dream I read her diary and uncover all the secrets that will answer all the questions. I stand poised and ready to ask. Okay, last one, last poem in the book. Is that okay? Okay, okay. Last one, short one. I tried to write, because it's a heavy book. There's a lot of heavy stuff in the book, so I tried to write an inspirational poem that I called #Still Here. And clearly, inspirational poetry is not my jam, but it's the best I can do. So thank you so much for your attention. #Still Here. I am sad and I am walking. I am breathing and I am engulfed in flame. I am peripheral to your life, and I am the center of pain's harsh enterprise. I can't get out of bed, and I am resting. I am a flash in the river, and I am the spoiled salmon dinner. I am self-obsessed, and I am a knot of winter afternoon light. #am writing. #am not writing. I am terror's own knot, and I am barely a person. I am my own perfect disaster, and I am in on the joke. I am completely out of fashion, and I am still here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachi. Al.
Hi, Kirby. Hi, Randy. Hi, Sachiko. It's wonderful to be here. What I'll do is just read 2 poems and then consult you on whether I should go ahead and do another one, or maybe stick another one in sometime later. One of them will be a little bit extensive, but not too long. So the first one is called Baltimore, May 2015. Baltimore Oriole singing from the tip of a vast spreading silver maple, and then he goes quiet and flies swift as arrow deep into neighbor trees, his gold and blue hardly visible up in the dazzling dull starlit sky. Last week they were burning Baltimore, the never solaced wound of the African, never let heal, chains and bullets, the angry contentment of the others schooling themselves hard in the delusion then is then and now is now. The rose-colored crab apples are almost done with snowing. They are clouds mostly green, though over there a hungry sparrow can knock a flurry of pink still out of one. But the white crab tree still is fresh, dropping nothing, dense and opening inward, indescribable thought-like ways of passage among petals for the air that freshens. Behind it, the closed, quiet house front, a face of supreme beauty pondering with a look all outward that doesn't know or care how it looks. Under the hedge, the gold forsythia flowers on the sidewalk are skirts with empty central hollows awaiting minuscule waists, a new human, girls an inch tall, incorruptible, and somewhere already dancing and laughing naked, tasting each other's lips, breasts, thighs, and the closed spaces where frills and openings hide, the way the wrinkled bark, the groins of limbs, the passages to the interior of the tree, all hide in the white petals, the way that the coming race of humans, all female still in early embryo, unthreatened couples now, beyond sight, in a long-lost scripture not yet written in the orgy of imagination. This one is a kind of descriptive poem. This is the longer one I talked to you about, called Sudden Little Parade Downtown. The first tall flower-encrusted wagon appears in the fast food restaurant window, and the eaters lower their burgers. Look, the street is filled with honey gold people suddenly, and the motors are gone, the panel trucks, SUVs, high-end sports cars with their subtle low riffs of burps. Now the sound is chanting, tinkling, bells and rattles. South Indians feel young, and some whites go along the fringe, the curves, with camera goiters at their necks. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, floats in the air softly as voice and drumbeat, and ripples embroidered in brilliant Roman letters on a breeze-lifted banner hung on the back of the float. Behind it, a long interval of strolling, shacking celebrants. Call them worshipers, devotees, believers. And then here comes a second wagon, another long stretch of people, then a third, each a whole story tall and all in flowers, a curved canopy atop, and girls in robes peeking out of its mouth, and in front of them a chubby sage in Buddha lotus pose, enveloped in saffron and fanned by a big man with an enormous placid feather. The sages wave impassively to the watchers. O Hinduism, mosaic of gods and stories, intricated bits of colors, stars, baffling, pleasing, many as the flowers cladding the wagons. Your world is the tesserae in the basin of a great fountain with its scenes of creation, war, destruction, triumph in the palace courtyard, all things a patchwork of celebration, sketchy, heedless joy of the dark and light God. The patches having been cut from the people's misery and doings, of beadwork, innumerable beads, like a wampum of treaty, with the power that reigns over poverty, treaty that every day saves and gives us back the body which reigns over pleasure. Ni Yahweh Honi Yahweh Hane, Ni Yahweh Honi Yahweh Hane. singing the dream song of the Maker who dwells in the sky, singing every day the miraculous escape, the rescue. Kamate, kamate, ka ora, ka ora. Kamate, kamate, ka ora, ka ora. Tene, te tengata, pukuru, huru. Nana ne itiki mai wa wai uti pitera. Ahupani, kahupani, ahupani, kahupani, wifi tera. A step upward from the trap, the pit. Another step upward, the sun shines. Hinduism, will you live? The street you come along says no. You won't find any elephants there, but the small ones painted in blue on the white rims of the 10-foot-high, gently ongoing wheels of your 3 wagons. How will you speak with only memory, no elephants to be your words? The street fills back up with shoppers. Now you are gone, and the cars return as the parade moves out of earshot south toward Lake Ontario. So those are my 2 poems.
Thank you, Al. Randy, welcome. Thank you, Al.
Can you hear me, folks?
Yeah, well, we can, Randy, yeah.
Is the sound half decent at least?
You sound clear and a good volume.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, it's a real treat to be here. I can see these 3 lovely faces here, but I can't see the rest of the audience, but I know you're out there, so it's a real pleasure to be here, and I really appreciated Kirby's enthusiastic introduction. Glad it's a lovely day out there in Toronto. I'm in Regina still. Well, you were going on about Sunday morning. I thought you were going to break into a Chris Christopherson song there for a second, which I would have really appreciated.
I just shaved the beard off, otherwise I would have.
Lots of people think that's a Johnny Cash song, but
yeah, but
I think Christopherson wrote
by Cash. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. So thanks for having me, and like I said, it's a real treat to be here with our lovely host and these 2 esteemed poets. I'm going to read a little bit from Field Notes for the Self, which was published in this spring of 2020 by the University of Regina Press. So as with Mr. Moritz, I'm just going to read a couple of poems and then see where we're at. I don't know, maybe we'll have a round 2 or something. So the first poem I'm going to read is, it's called Heraclitus or Heraclitos. Spell it as you wish, I don't give a damn. And the title sort of plays on 2 spellings of the name of that ancient Greek philosopher. So Heraclitus or Heraclitos, spell it as you wish, I don't give a damn. A pot of coffee and 6 cigarettes into the day, and you're finally ready to see the world. 7:30 a.m., early October. It's Tuesday or Thursday or some other day. At your age, memory is failing in new ways and for new reasons all the time. Soon you have to be at work, but aren't ready just yet. You are thinking about the book you were reading last night. Up too late again. The 3 dogs scattered, sleeping on the floor. One or another of them occasionally lifting a head, blinking at you with a quizzical gaze. All the lights out, except for the candle and your reading lamp on the dining room table. The book says that people can't look at the world, can't really see what's there, much less begin to speak, to say anything that corresponds to reality. Epistemological and ontological problems is the way you put it to yourself. Leftover vocabulary from too many nights, year after year, of sitting alone and reading. One habit you haven't been able to set aside, the way you set aside the bottle with its own kind of flame. The whiskey burn in your throat like a summer-long boreal drought fire in a stiff westerly wind. The book says people can neither look nor see, but a pot of coffee and a half dozen cigarettes into this day of the week you cannot name, you see a female Richardson's Merlin perched atop the power pole at the back of the yard. Her blue-gray hooded mate lights atop the 50-foot spruce and calls. You think of Cohen's bird on a wire and wonder what it was he saw, blackbird or starling. You think it must have been a blackbird, that he was thinking of the Beatles and that poet Stevens. You'd like to tell all the poets that the blackbird saw Stevens more than 13 ways, even before he sat down with pen and paper to make himself famous again. Cohen's gone now, so you'll never know. But the species of bird wasn't the point, you suppose. No, he was more interested in the ineffable. And although you hesitate to call it a soul, you think it must have been something like that. Still, you'd like to know what kind of bird it was, instead of it being merely a metaphor for a thing he could neither touch nor see, like a woman's body that is neither more nor less than a shadow of memory. When the Greek from Ephesus says people cannot see, you know what he means. But the way you cannot see is different from the way the neighbors do not see, too busy rushing off on their Wordsworthian getting and spending to take much notice of any winged thing that's not easily identifiable. As an angel from the Bible, that is, a Michael or a Gabriel. And you want to tell the guy who wrote the introduction to the fragments, with his talk about archetypal modes of thought and a strikingly postmodern deconstructive mind, that really he's missed the point of why there's anything rather than nothing at all. The rare and random descent into visibility. You want to tell him, your neighbors, and anyone who will listen about accompanying a pair of parentless 9-year-old boys to a sweat lodge ceremony in the middle of the city, in the heart of the hood the other day. How they sat with you, one on either side, through 4 rounds of darkness and then light. And how later you sat with them on the garbage-littered creek bank and talked with a refugee from Laos who was fishing for carp. Each passerby out for an afternoon jog glanced momentarily, apparently mystified, at 2 brown men and 2 brown boys in the tall, brittle grass by the barely moving mud-brown water, a detail none of them recounted to their family later that night. All the light we can see is between 400 and 700 nanometers on the spectrum. Still, those 2 birds are worth looking at. In an hour's time, you'll be sitting with those boys again as they pack their bags for school. When you tell them about the Merlins, maybe the only story you'll ever tell them worth their remembering, something in their eyes will flare like the match struck to light the smudge, will spark like the dried medicines the old man tossed onto the glowing stones in the lodge. Sitting together for a few minutes on the front step of a house, the 3 of you still carry the scent of that smoke in your hair. This afternoon's rain will wash it away. Maybe I should have mentioned that that poem and the next one I'm going to read sort of come from I recently started a new job, and prior to that I was working with the YWCA Regina in children's housing, so working with a lot of primarily Indigenous kids who'd been taken into care by the Ministry of Social Services. So that's where some of these poems have come from. And the next one I'm going to read is called Raven at Field Edge. And I'll just read it to you. Heavy feathered black raven in the left from fall harvest stubble, standing up through the barely 3 inches of snow at the field edge, just off the grid road at the north edge of the city. Beautiful day, just -7 degrees, no wind, and the disk in the sky like a hammered gold Aztec sunstone. A great Mexican poet might write a whole book about that sun. The raven picks at a discarded McDonald's bag, a limp French fry hanging from its thick, glinting beak. At least something that might be called good, a meal, comes of the fear, anger, and greed that drives the kind of creatures we are. Those who throw garbage from the window of a speeding silver SUV. The kind of hunger that drives you and me, too. Can we be done with pretending? 50 years old now, 2/3 of the way through your life, if you are lucky. 50 years old, and your Nehiao mother can't believe what's become of her smiling 12 pounds at birth baby boy. What's happened to his self-confidence? What you know is that everything you thought you knew up until today amounts to nothing. You know nothing, too well. You have found it at the center of everything. Your own mind, emptiness, an absence of anything called spirit or soul. You will get through another day without a story to tell. At work, a young girl whose father died a week ago from a methamphetamine overdose. You sat with her as she sat with an elder who smudged the girl with sage and spoke in low tones of her own life because the girl wouldn't speak. You and the old woman from a reserve in the valley coaxed, but the girl said whatever sadness she had felt was gone, had left her. And you imagined that departure, like a bird fledging feathers before its first flight. But what you imagined is not the point. Sitting on the back deck tonight, a full moon visible through the end of February bare branches of the cherry tree. The poem might be better with cherry blossoms, you think, but this is not that kind of poem. That poem would have to be set in another season, another time, landscape, and climate. And a white owl just dropped from the cottonwood in the neighbor's backyard. The 3 dogs bark. You know when it disappears, it has flown into an adjacent world. But it is not a symbol. The owl is a real bird. That's what you want to tell the girl. And I think I'll stop there for now and say thank you.
So much. So Tangibles, I'm a fan. It's an all. I will say, I think, Sasha, you were addressing the dark, and all 3 collections go there. And I would gladly sit in the dark with any one of you. So, but the undertow can be tricky. I remember one of the first outings I had during the pandemic in a dear friend's backyard, a poet's backyard. And for the first time, I kicked off my shoes and felt my feet on the grass, in the coolness of the grass. And for the first time, I came to peace and my connectedness to this earth that continues to support us as it wanes. So my curiosity, it's about being honest, Jess. In each collection, I'm hearing it's about being honest, including honesty about the lies we tell ourselves. My curiosity is how you bring about that honesty with regard to your writing, and also what keeps you out of the undertow. Who would like to start?
I guess I could say something because a lot of my poems are like in the darkness, but I don't write them from within the darkness. I write them from, it needs to be light out, when I'm writing. And the act of writing itself is so, like, I find it really technical and like engaging with like my logic mind in composition. I find that is a balance for any kind of emotional content that comes through to kind of to balance it and to make it more than just like an emotional bleh, right? Like to have that kind of technical compositional activity happening at the same time, I find very balancing. But yeah, I'm all of the darkness is in reflection, like it's in the past for me because I can't write from within any darkness.
Of course. And so, and from that place, you can bring forth an honesty. When does it ring honest for you? Because that's what to me is the power of each of your collections is this rings true. It bears honesty. It's not the easiest to read. And I'm wondering in terms of your own writing process, how that, do you feel that vulnerability? Do you welcome that openness? Can you say more?
I think strangely, when you're working as hard as you can, like Sachiko says, with your conscious mind to create something, it kind of releases the unconsciousness at the same time. It's almost like when you're doing something like writing poetry, you're working on mathematics or architecture and dreaming simultaneously, and they're almost going together without you knowing. Like, I often think conversation is a poem. You, Kirby, were doing the same thing, I think, when you tried to get us to talk first. You started out with, it's very hard to deal with the down and out, with the sorrow. By the time you got to the end, you were talking about putting your feet in the grass. Now, what's the connection between the two things? There's a profound connection, but the way you wandered from one subject to the completely, seemingly unrelated subject is a poem, Yes. I think those two things are profoundly related. I won't say what I think the relation is, but, I think that's the kind of thing. But for the unquiet heart and mind, a use in measured language lies, the sad mechanic exercise, like dull narcotics, easy pain. That's Tennyson.
Thank you. I'm also struck by the connection to your surroundings that each of you write about very distinctly and clearly. Birds are huge in both Al and Randy's work in this new collection. There's something about looking out that creates something different than the inward spiral that often happens in the darkness. How much is that connection vital to your continuing as a poet?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something Sachiko said a moment ago, is that there is really something about the process of writing. I'm not going to articulate it as well as she did, but there's something about the process of writing, the practice of writing, and using the tools that you've picked up along the way. That really does. I don't know if it liberates me from the darkness, but it gives me somewhere to stand in the midst of it, I think. So for me, at least, I don't think that darkness ever goes away or disappears, or I don't think I'm ever standing fully in the light. But what it does is gives you a candle, which that's a terrible metaphor there. But it does give you somewhere to sort of stand and survey the darkness, for me at least. When I have to talk with students about writing poetry, that's something I try to remind them is that it's not just about self-expression, right? A lot of them come to the table thinking, oh, this is about self-expression, and I try to remind them, well, that's part of it. It's also about exploration. So I was practicing addict for many years, and I got really good at lying to myself, first and foremost. And, then I would lie to other people, but I got really good at lying to myself. and this is one of the things that writing has done for me is it's a place where I go where I'm not allowed to lie to myself, or if I do, then it's written down in front of me, and I can look at it and go, I can look at it and go, you're lying to yourself there, buddy. so I think there's just something about the practice and using the tools that susses out the lies, right? That makes them visible and helps me at least realize, oh, wait a minute, that's part of the darkness. And in that business of looking outward, you mentioned birds, of course, and again, I think for me, the looking outward, sure, again, provides you with a kind of platform upon which to stand, rather than sort of sinking beneath the waves. But also, the process is looking inward or looking outward. In some ways, are the same process, and it allows you to I think for me, at least, it allows you to realize that, what's out there is also in here, and what's in here is also out there, and that, again, that mitigates the self to some extent, and the self concerns, and the self pity, and the self loathing, and whatever else, and the self worship that sometimes becomes a problem. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Thank you. I know you have a few minutes, which is fine, because the bulk of the time was to hear your words and your voices. I want to encourage everyone today to please pick up these collections. They're extraordinary. I'm not just, wait. I want to say they've stopped me. They've moved me. They've given me breath. They allow me to continue. So I am grateful. I know that all of you are also teachers, instructors, organizers, work with poets, and something that you had said, all men should be required to take a poetry class. Randy, something that you had said recently, and Al, you were talking about how the lack of reading of poetry has had an impact, an effect on our world these days. Randy, if you're teaching that class, and I know, because I will get the word out. Okay. The books are online. I'm certain at the bookshop that Watts has. They're also at Knife Work Book. Darlings, did I say thank you?
Thank you, Kirby.
Lovely afternoon and our Sunday morning, and
lovely to meet you, Kirby. I have not met you before. It's been a pleasure.
It's a real pleasure, and I hope that we can meet in the flesh at some point soon. But for now, what a lovely taste.
Well, thanks for bringing us together. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for inviting us, Kirby. It's really been great, and I really look forward to being able to be at Knife Work Book in person again someday, not too distant, right? For whether people in Toronto or people who might come through at any time, it's such a great place. Thank you for it.
To that return as well. Okay. Well, thank you, Watts. Thank you, Kingston Writers Festival. Read some poetry, darlings. Talk to you soon.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye, folks. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, all of you, for reading. We're really trying to make the space feel like as if we were able to physically be together. So I think that all of you really contributed to that today. So thank you very much. Like it was mentioned, all of the books are available both at our Word on the Street shop as well as at knifeworkbook.com. So also make sure that you shop all those titles there. And so now I'm very excited to welcome Bill Bissett for a 5-minute reading. Hi, Bill.
Yes, I can start. In Alabama, I barely,
Oh, do you want me to introduce you and read your bio?
Too. And I ate all the crocodiles that they had there until there was nothing left for me to do. So I moved further north up to New York City, and I ate all the crocodiles they had left. And the full moon had hung so deep in my chest, and I was also bereft, that I turned to the writing of poetry for the good of my soul and my life. Almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Oh, we are almost there. Oh, shimmy, honey, shimmy, honey, shimmy. I love shimmy, do ba 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 shimmy. Almost there, you can find anything you want at any time, at any place. Yeah, I got any wish anywhere. Where? Can you? You're coming me, my coming you. Why do magazines lie so much? Because we want a basic income now. We want less hierarchies, more equal society, more equitable. We want to live with each other. Yes. These poems are from my new book, Breath. Yes. Yes, the trees of lunaria, text bites, text bites, just you, just me, just to thee, just everyone is the truth of the text. It's a margins and infinities, the tactility of the text. Carved in our brains and minds, the soul does a text that ground you, me. The turbulence of the text, its focus and disarray sway. The tempestuousness of the text, and the moon eats us. Oh, we're eating the moon, and in the river we're going through the trees, and the winds bring us through the torture of the text, of the torment of the text, the terror of the text. Oh, the roar of the text. I know the tremor of the text, of the overwhelming tango of the text, of the text, of the text, of the text, of the teases of the text, the ease of the text, and the XT of the text, the candor of the text, the extent of the text, of the text. I heard the salmon talks will resume on Monday, and I said, thank God. Well, at least the salmon are talking. The eagle talks, the eye is a speaking, the weave is the eye. Oh, text me, honey, on some regular basis. Woo. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for joining us today. So you can actually, sorry?
I'll see you later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bill. So Bill Bissett is originally from Lunaria, a far distant planet which has a more egalitarian body politic. Still trying to get used to challenging every earthling ways, but feel it's worth to try. Poet and painter, shows paintings at the Secret Handshake Gallery in Toronto. You can find Breath, Bill's most recent book, from our official bookseller, Another Story Bookshop, as well as in our digital marketplace at wordonthestreet.shop or at anotherstory.ca. So we will now be back in 10 minutes for our panel with authors Amanda Leduc, Sarah Kerchak, and with both of them in conversation with activist and educator Sirius Marcus Ware. Thank you.